Over the last few episodes, you've seen volunteers cleaning up and sanding down the entire inside of Arabella's hull. Today, with help from David and his son Grant, she'll get a full coat of Danish Teak Sealer throughout, and it's never looked better down there. And Steve readies the first of the last 2 cedar planks for the port side, and they'll get that one up on the boat. Thanks for watching, liking, and subscribing to the videos, and thanks as always for the monthly contributions on Patreon that help keep the videos coming your way every week. Visit patreon.com/Acorn to Arabella if you're interested and able to help contribute. But most of all, we hope you just enjoy the videos.
Okay, 6'2". So I'm marking this cedar out exactly the same way that Carolyn did for the oaks when we were measuring right before the shutter. So I measured at each frame and figured out what that gap was that we needed to fill, and then I split that gap in half. Here we are. So I got the distances and the widths, marked out the line on the plank, measured up at each of those marks, and now the last step here is bring the batten. We can draw our lines and cut it out. So what tool are you using there?
It's a card scraper. In this case, it's got a curve on it for just getting into those tight spots or curved surfaces.
And how does that work?
What you do is you end up setting up an edge along the side of the card scraper, and that acts as a cutting surface. And the key for me is to be constantly kind of feeling it to see if the edge is holding up, if it's getting worn down, or if it needs to get sharpened.
Nice. How's that one feeling?
It's still good. It's still got a couple more sections left in it.
Nice.
I'll probably hit it in about 10 minutes.
Pretty much impossible to beat. A scraper gives you, hands down, the best finish.
I think the key here too is that the folks that were here before did an awesome job sanding. And for me, it's just taking off that last little layer.
Yeah, just those swirls from the sander, those last fuzzy grains that it leaves.
It's also
spectacularly smooth finish.
It's very satisfying. And the other thing to watch out for is to make sure you're getting good shavings. And these are not the best, but at least it shows that it's planing a layer off instead of just making sawdust. So, scraper I've been using for about 15-20 minutes, and at this point there's not really a good edge on it, and I'm finding that I'm developing more like sawdust than actually shavings. And so what's happened is that if you look at the initial shape of the scraper, before it's sharpened, it's got kind of a rectangular cross section. And in the process of sharpening it, you end up creating kind of a mushroom on the top of it. And this is the surface that's actually doing the cutting as you're scraping. But what happens is over time that just wears away, and especially knocking up against the copper rivets. I end up just kind of chipping away the surface. And since this isn't fine finish or furniture work, I think it's okay that it's got a little bit of rough surface. But eventually when it stops doing a good job shaving, it's just time to start over. And so the first thing I'll do is take this device, which you can use in a bunch of different ways, but one way is to first kind of reset the edge. And so what I'm doing here is just running it along and taking advantage of the 90-degree angle here to remove that burr that was there from the last sharpening. So I'm going to do both sides and just work my way along to the point where I can't feel that hook anymore. At this point, I'll also try to run it along here and just flatten out the top of the surface, because that's gotten dinged up along the way too. This is obviously a lot easier with a straight edge scraper, so I'm just kind of winging it right now. Alright, so in theory that's a relatively smooth surface, the hooks are gone, and I'm going to use this super fancy vise, which I normally wouldn't be squeezing a scraper into this type of vise or metal vise, because I worry that the underside here would get flattened as I'm tightening. But because this device allows you to change the angle of the clamping, you can actually make it so it's pointed at the top and it's actually going to be grabbing in the middle here. And the next step is, if you have one of these, which is a garnisher, and instead of using an old Phillips head screwdriver, this works a lot better. You end up first going along the top of it to flatten out and create a flat, kind of smooshed out surface across here. And then the next pass is that I'll take it at about that angle on both sides to then start to round over to get these hooks. And so probably do like 5, 6, 7, 8 passes on flat, and then the same thing on both sides. So, and not too much pressure, but enough pressure where it's starting to squish out the metal. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Also on this side. Started to develop a little bit of an edge, and I can feel it with my fingernail. I'm going to do a couple more passes just to get it a little bit more pronounced. Okay, that seems like it's going to work. And then it's off to try to test it out.
Watch the camera as we go through the hole.
Okay.
And tallest in front.
Okay.
And then as soon as you get it established onto the second floor, run up, and then as soon as you can't reach, run up, and as soon as I can't reach, I'll run up, and then we can put it on the spar bench upstairs.
Okay, awesome. Do you want me in front or behind?
Grab in the middle.
Oh, it's so heavy.
Yeah, the cedar is unbelievably light.
Hold on.
Alright, you can run up. Alright, pause there.
Got it.
Alright, love you guys.
Keep going. Yeah, right there.
Perfect, thank you.
No problem.
That was much easier than doing it alone.
Should these be perpendicular also?
The little ones don't really matter all that much. They're so small, they're not going to have enough force to do anything. Well, I think Grandpa's gearing up to cut hay today, too.
And wipe when the rag gets gross. We'll toss it. When the denatured alcohol gets gross, toss it. But it'll pick up a ton of the sanding residue.
Okay.
And it'll cut a lot of the oils, and that'll let the teak sealers go right in.
Okay. Awesome.
And we don't have to you don't have to be super crazy meticulous.
Okay.
And it evaporates so quickly But you can really just like slosh it on there, get it wet, move on.
Cool.
So for everybody watching right now, this is just alcohol so we can get all the dust off before putting on the sealer.
These upper planks are so much easier, huh?
Yeah.
It's like not nearly as much going on.
It's just screws up here.
Yeah, no rivets, way faster. Much easier.
Much easier.
Not as strong. Oh man, the cedar's so soft. Beautiful.
When we were sanding the other day, Grant started sanding down there with the little triangle sander and then I was working on this side and I thought, well, wait a minute, what's it going to look like if I scrape it? And I was just scraping in this section and I hit that plank down there with that amazing figure in it, and all of a sudden it was like boom, it was hiding behind all the sanding marks.
Yeah.
And that was the decision to say, okay, let me reach out to Steve and see if he could make a decision about, should we be doing this for all the areas that are going to be exposed? And the other part was to start to do scraping on these, is that we really started to see the grain of the oak come out. It was really obscured by the sanding marks previously.
Looking good.
Thank you. Now I just have to remember where I left off.
It's a lot quieter than riveting too.
It's nicer, huh?
This part sucks. Doing? Good.
How you doing?
Good. This is it.
Down to the final stretch.
Yes. I'm not sure why. And you may have noticed, but I was using a ridiculously small rag for most of the boat. Now that I'm using the rag Steve was using, I'm like, oh yeah, it would have been a lot faster.
Yeah, he has a like small piece of sheet that was in there.
Yeah, it's like more like a piece of a ripped off flannel shirt or something.
That was one of my sheets.
Okay, I was like, all right, this is what I'm supposed to use. I'll just grin and bear it. And then when I saw Steve up there, I was like, wait a minute, he's using a big cloth.
Man, it's looking so good back in here. It's crazy. All right, how's it feel?
Feels awesome. Actually, it hasn't set in yet.
It's a gargantuan difference.
Yeah.
With all the dolphinite and paint runs and everything cleaned out. Wow. That looks good. Not too shabby for a couple of rank amateurs.
Yes. Thank you for letting me do this.
Well, thank you for doing it. It's like thanking your neighbor for letting you shovel their driveway.
Yes. Can I hand stuff up to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for watching, and remember to give the video a like if that applies to you. Next week, the portside planking will be complete as the last of the cedar planks is lightly hammered into place. 3 planks to go before any whiskey is poured, but that will be sometime down the line as the second floor of the boathouse is currently in the way. Hope you all have a great week, and see you here next Friday.